In the last couple of videos, we created a class called the student class. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to test out this student class. Now, you're required in this week's lab to write a test, actually not to write a test, but to actually test out the classes that you create. The reason for doing this is because the sooner that we can find the problems, the easier it's going to be for us. So we want to be sure when we start using the class that the class is working fine. We don't want to find out later that it's not working very well at all. Okay, so it's pretty easy to create a class. It's pretty easy to create a test for the class. So let's just double click on the form someplace so that we get a form load event. Once we get a form load event, what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we need to declare a variable to test the thing out. So now this is a student variable, right? So we're going to say student. And now the way I indicate objects, and I think it's a pretty easy way to do things, is I'm just going to call this my student. That is, I have a student object that I'm going to create. So the first thing I have to do is I have to create this. Now remember, this is a reference type. Classes are reference types, and with reference types you have to instantiate them as well. So I'm going to say my student equals new, and then it's going to be student, and then I'm going to put parentheses at the end. Okay, so first thing is I created the variable and then I instantiated it. I could also do that in one step if I wanted to. It's up to you as to what you do. I could say student my student equals new student. That would work as well. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to put some test data in to what I'm using. So let's say my student, and then I'm going to put in my student.name, and I'm going to say that equals to test. Okay, and then I'm going to say my student dot midterm equals, and I'm going to give it some sort of value. Let's say 100 for the midterm, and my student dot final, and I'm going to give it some sort of value. Let's say 80, so we'll still get a grade of A out of this. And then I need to have some way in which I report that value back, and I can report it back in a list box or a message box. I'm going to use a message box right now. And what I want to report back is my student.name. So I want to be sure that the name gets set properly and gets back to me properly. And then I want to put in a space. And then I want to put in my student.midterm. And then I want to put in let's see, I want to put in another space, and then I want to put in my student.final, and then I want to put in another space, and finally I'm going to put in my student.grade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this test and see whether it works. Let's see. There's some sort of problem here. Oh, cannot. Okay. It's because. Do you see the problem? Okay. Cannot have string and a method group. This is a method, so we have to put in parentheses. Okay, so that was the problem there. Again, this is something that happens a lot. When we use methods, we have to be sure that we put in both parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to run the program right now just to see what happens. I should get test 180 and then a grade of an A. Let's make sure that that's indeed what happens when I run the program. So here it goes. Test 180, a grade of A. Okay, great. And now I'm going to just do one more test. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this is just to be sure that I had everything ready. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to create a new student. And now here I'm just going to call this test 1, and I'm going to give a midterm grade of 99 and a student final grade of 80. That should give me an F according to my algorithms. So let's be sure that we got it. So test 180A, test 1, 9980F. So it seems to me that this is working out just fine. So, like I said, in this week's lab, you are required to create tests. I think it's create a test for the class, and it's just along these lines. You could either put it in a message, you could either message box or a list box, and at the end you might want to just highlight everything and go up here and comment out those lines just so that they don't get in your way when you're developing the rest of the program.